Humanity had waited for this moment for decades. The leaders, scientists, and ordinary people of Earth had worked tirelessly to make sure their planet could be seen as worthy of joining the Galactic Council. They had built incredible technologies, explored space farther than any human ever had, and sent messages across the stars, filled with knowledge, culture, and a desire for friendship. They had hoped that the Council, which governed countless civilizations, would recognize Earth's potential. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the silence was deafening. There was no reply. At first, people tried to stay calm. News outlets reported on the waiting, speaking of delays, technical issues, or miscommunication. Governments reassured their citizens that patience was necessary when dealing with interstellar diplomacy. Still, the lack of response gnawed at everyone. It wasn't just a simple delay. There was something unusual about it. Every other civilization had received acknowledgement for similar communications. Earth had been ignored, and everyone knew it. In the observation centers, scientists stared at their screens, checking and rechecking transmissions. Every system was working perfectly. The signals were clear, the messages correctly formatted, and the evidence of humanity's achievements was undeniable. Yet the Galactic Council remained silent. Among the population, conversations began to change. People no longer spoke with the polite hope of maybe they're just busy. Instead, there was frustration and a quiet anger that spread through every city, every home, every school. They had tried to reach out, and the Council had turned its back. Diplomats gathered in conference rooms that overlooked sprawling cityscapes and glittering ports. They reviewed Earth's achievements, advances in medicine, environmental restoration, space exploration, and even early attempts at faster-than-light communication. These were accomplishments that could benefit not just Earth, but the galaxy as a whole. Yet, even with such clear proof, there was no acknowledgement. The diplomats whispered among themselves about the possible reasons. Some suspected jealousy. Others feared that older civilizations saw humans as unpredictable, dangerous, or unrefined. Meanwhile, the people on the streets of major cities felt a growing restlessness. Children asked their parents why no one replied, why the stars seemed so distant, why their planet was being ignored. Teachers tried to explain in ways that made sense, speaking of complex politics between alien races, but even adults struggled to understand. There was a sense that humanity had reached a turning point, that the world could no longer wait passively for recognition from beings who did not see them as equals. In private laboratories, engineers and scientists began discussing strategies. They weren't thinking about weapons, at least not yet. They were thinking about communication, about sending messages that could not be ignored, about showing the Council that humanity was capable of more than just waiting. Some proposed demonstrations of technology. Others wanted to send envoys deeper into space to observe other civilizations, hoping to find allies or at least understand why Earth had been sidelined. Despite the uncertainty, there was also excitement. The silence of the Council forced humanity to look inward, to examine itself, and to find its own strength. The planet had been through countless crises, natural disasters, political unrest, and wars, and yet it had survived. People began to talk about unity, about how this challenge could be a moment where Earth came together for a greater purpose. Artists painted murals of stars and distant worlds. Writers filled pages with stories of humans as explorers, thinkers, and peacemakers. Every city, every village seemed to feel the same pulse, a mixture of hope and defiance. Then, as weeks passed, small signs began to appear that Earth was not completely alone. Ships returning from the edge of the solar system reported strange anomalies, flashes of light, patterns in deep space that hinted at observation by unseen eyes. Satellites recorded transmissions that were clearly monitoring Earth, though not in ways that communicated directly. The message was clear. Someone or some civilization was paying attention. But they weren't speaking. They were watching. The tension became almost tangible. Scientists, diplomats, and even ordinary citizens felt it in their daily lives. There were debates on news channels, in cafes, and in homes about how humans should respond. Some urged caution, insisting that patience and diplomacy were still the best path. Others argued that the silence of the council was not an accident, and that humanity needed to act to protect its interests and assert its presence. The debate was heated, but beneath it all ran a shared feeling. Earth could no longer wait quietly for permission to exist among the stars. In the end, as silence itself became a challenge. It was not just the absence of a reply. It was a test of humanity's resolve. And as humans looked up at the night sky, seeing the familiar constellations and imagining the vast civilizations beyond, they realized something important. They were no longer just inhabitants of a single planet. They were a species capable of reaching for the stars, capable of demanding recognition, and capable of shaping their own destiny. The first part of this story ended not with a battle, a dramatic confrontation, or a clear resolution, but with a decision quietly forming in the minds of Earth's leaders and citizens alike. Humanity would not be ignored. They would find a way to make the galaxy listen, and in that decision, the seeds of something extraordinary were already taking root. While Earth waited for a response from the Galactic Council, the truth slowly started to emerge. Some humans had been watching the skies more closely than ever before. Satellites, deep space probes, and observation ships had begun to detect strange patterns near the edge of the solar system. They weren't signs of random phenomena or natural space activity. There was intelligence behind them, movements of ships that were clearly observing Earth, fleets that appeared in places without explanation, signals that seemed to avoid direct communication but were too calculated to be ignored. At first, these discoveries were met with confusion. Scientists debated whether they were witnessing something benign, like distant civilizations exploring their own territory, or something more deliberate. But as more observations came in, it became harder to dismiss the evidence. Unseen eyes were watching humanity closely, learning, analyzing, judging. And yet no message came, no explanation, no invitation, only surveillance. Meanwhile, inside the offices of diplomats and researchers, discussions grew more urgent. Reports from deep space missions indicated that some alien civilizations were actively lobbying to keep humanity out of the Council. It seemed certain worlds feared Earth's potential. They viewed humans as unpredictable, aggressive in their ambitions, and possibly dangerous if allowed access to galactic resources or knowledge. The evidence was indirect but compelling. Intercepted signals, patterns of movement near Earth's outer orbit, and unusual anomalies in interstellar communications networks. These revelations shocked many. Humanity had always assumed that being isolated in space was a temporary phase, a matter of timing and distance. But now it was clear that exclusion was intentional. A sense of betrayal began to take hold. How could advanced civilizations look at Earth and decide to block its participation, not because of inability, but out of fear? This knowledge spread quickly through the media, causing debates and heated discussions among citizens worldwide. Some felt fear, imagining hostile civilizations plotting against them. Others felt anger and defiance, refusing to accept a world where humanity's achievements were dismissed simply because they were human. The tension was not limited to diplomats or scientists. Ordinary people felt it in their everyday lives. In classrooms, children asked why other civilizations didn't want to talk to humans. In offices, workers speculated about what the aliens might be thinking, sharing theories about why humans were being judged before they even had a chance to participate. Artists and writers began creating works that reflected these feelings, paintings of Earth watched from above, stories of humans navigating a galaxy that doubted their worth. music that captured the mix of anxiety and courage spreading across the planet Dot in private laboratories. Engineers and inventors began brainstorming in earnest. They discussed how to make Earth impossible to ignore, how to demonstrate that humanity was capable of contributing meaningfully to the galaxy. Some thought about sending more sophisticated probes that could record the beauty and intelligence of human civilization. Others proposed enhancing communication systems to ensure no signal could be overlooked. The goal was clear. Humanity had to show, in undeniable ways, that it belonged in galactic affairs. Diplomats, too, took a proactive approach. They studied the Council's past decisions, attempting to understand the motivations of each member civilization. They discovered that older, more powerful worlds often tried to suppress emerging civilizations, especially those that showed rapid growth or unpredictable behavior. The Council itself, composed of representatives from multiple worlds, seemed to favor maintaining the status quo. Humanity's rapid progress and willingness to explore uncharted territories appeared to some as a threat. This knowledge fueled both frustration and resolve. If the Council underestimated humans, it would be a mistake they would soon regret. The growing awareness of alien surveillance also stirred public imagination. People began looking up at the stars with a mix of fear and fascination, wondering who was watching and why. Was it a single civilization? Multiple? Were they observing with curiosity, suspicion, or even hostility? Humanity had long dreamed of making contact with alien life, but the reality was more complicated. Being watched without acknowledgement created a new challenge. Humans had to navigate the unknown with caution, strategy, and courage. As the weeks went by, the feeling of urgency intensified. Earth's leaders recognized that passive waiting would not serve their people. Diplomatic missions could take years to yield results, if at all, and there was no guarantee the Council would respond favorably. The planet's future in the galaxy could not be left entirely to hope. Discussions began about a more assertive approach, one that combined diplomacy, demonstration of capability, and a clear statement of humanity's presence and worth. The idea of taking the initiative, of making the galaxy acknowledge Earth on humanity's own terms, began to take shape. Even ordinary citizens sensed that something was changing. Public debates, forums, and discussions online became filled with ideas about unity and collective effort. Communities organized projects to showcase human creativity, science, and culture. Children learned about space exploration with a renewed sense of purpose. Adults, once concerned mainly with everyday life, began contributing to technological projects and cultural initiatives, realizing that this moment required the best humanity had to offer. Among the scientific teams, a small group of explorers volunteered for risky missions to observe the alien fleets directly. Their goal was not confrontation, but understanding. They sought patterns, weaknesses, and intentions. They recorded every movement, every signal, and every anomaly, sending reports back to Earth that were studied intensively. The more they discovered, the more apparent it became that some civilizations had been quietly coordinating to marginalize humanity. But they had underestimated humans' resilience, curiosity, and willingness to act boldly when necessary. By the end of this period, Earth had changed. The planet was no longer just a world waiting quietly in the cosmos. It had become a species aware of its position, a civilization confronting its exclusion, and a people ready to act in ways they had never done before. Humanity's frustration had been transformed into determination, and its anxiety into strategy. The watching eyes of alien civilizations, once intimidating, now fueled the resolve to ensure that no one could dismiss Earth. Again, the second part of the story closed with a clear sense of purpose. Humanity knew it had to act, but how it would act was still taking shape. One thing was certain: the time for waiting was over. The silent observers, the unseen agendas, and the subtle hostility of the Galactic Council had revealed one undeniable truth. If humanity wanted recognition and respect in the galaxy, it would have to earn it, assert it, and demand it. And so, Earth began preparing for a bold move that would change the balance of interstellar politics forever. Earth decided it was time to take the next step. Waiting for the Galactic Council to notice them had proven useless. The people of the planet had the knowledge, the technology, and the determination to act. Leaders and diplomats worked tirelessly, crafting messages that were not just formal requests, but also demonstrations of humanity's intelligence, creativity, and willingness to cooperate. They included detailed explanations of Earth's achievements in science, medicine, and culture. They highlighted how humans had learned to survive on a fragile planet, to solve problems creatively, and to reach out into the stars. Once the message was ready, it was sent using the most advanced communication arrays available. Every known method was employed to ensure the Council could receive and decode it. It wasn't just a plea for recognition. It was a detailed argument for why humans should be included in galactic affairs. It explained Earth's vision for collaboration, the potential benefits to other civilizations, and the ways humanity could contribute knowledge, resources, and unique perspectives. The diplomats believed that presenting facts, reason, and goodwill would make it impossible to ignore Earth. But as the transmission reached the Council's systems, it became clear that the response would not come easily. Weeks passed, and there was still no acknowledgement. Earth's message, filled with evidence and sincerity, vanished into silence. It was as if the Council had made a conscious decision to turn a blind eye. For the people of Earth, this was both shocking and infuriating. They had presented themselves openly, offered collaboration, and shown respect for interstellar law and ethics, only to be dismissed without consideration. The lack of response sparked debates across the globe. Some argued for patience, insisting that the Council operated on timescales and standards humans could not understand. Others saw the silence as deliberate, as a sign that older civilizations wanted to keep humans isolated. In classrooms, workplaces, and homes, discussions grew heated. Citizens demanded answers, questioning why a species capable of space travel, of building cities, of creating art, and of exploring the unknown could be treated as irrelevant. The frustration was understandable. Earth had proven itself worthy, yet the Council acted as though it did not exist. Behind the scenes, scientists and engineers refused to be idle. They realized that if the Council would not acknowledge humanity voluntarily, humans might need to create situations where they could not be ignored. Laboratories were busy developing advanced probes, communication systems, and observational technology. Deep space missions were planned to monitor the movements and actions of Council member civilizations more closely. Humanity needed to understand what was happening in their absence and find leverage to ensure their voice would be heard. Even as frustration grew, so did determination. The planet began to feel a sense of unity rarely seen before. People recognized that their collective potential was their greatest strength. Communities collaborated on projects showcasing human ingenuity, culture, and scientific achievement. Artists painted murals of stars and distant civilizations. Engineers and students developed prototypes of new communication devices that could broadcast messages farther and more effectively. Every effort was a reminder that humanity was capable of action, not just waiting. Meanwhile, the Council remained unmoved. Intercepted communications and reconnaissance data suggested that some member civilizations had actively chosen to ignore Earth. They considered humans unpredictable, too independent, and possibly dangerous if allowed access to advanced interstellar networks. Some saw Earth as a threat to their own influence in the galaxy. Yet they underestimated one thing: the human ability to adapt, learn, and act boldly. The more the Council resisted, the more humans felt a sense of purpose and resolve. The diplomats of Earth realized that a direct appeal, no matter how carefully crafted, might never receive a fair hearing. They began planning new strategies that combined persistence, visibility, and demonstration of capability. It was no longer enough to present information. They needed to show the Council and the galaxy that humanity could not be ignored. This realization marked a turning point. Earth would stop asking politely and start asserting itself. Public opinion mirrored these strategic changes. People felt a mixture of frustration, fear, and pride. The injustice of being excluded was tangible, but it was paired with a growing sense of identity and strength. The population began to see the challenge as an opportunity to unite, to innovate, and to demonstrate what humanity could accomplish together. Schools incorporated lessons on space diplomacy and interstellar ethics. Communities launched projects to improve technology and culture, all with the aim of making humanity visible and respected in the galaxy. On top of this, the observation teams reported more unusual activity. Alien fleets moved near Earth, sometimes cautiously, sometimes boldly, as if monitoring human reactions to the lack of acknowledgement. Signals were intercepted, analyzed, and decoded when possible. Every piece of information reinforced the idea that humans were being watched closely, and yet deliberately kept out of galactic affairs. The awareness of being observed without engagement created both caution and urgency. Humans had to act carefully, but decisively. By the end of this period, Earth had changed in ways that were more than technological or political. Humanity had developed a sense of agency and determination that could not be ignored. People realized that the world was no longer a passive observer in the galaxy. It was a participant waiting for its opportunity to act, and that opportunity was approaching. The lesson was clear. Respect and recognition in the galaxy could not be demanded politely. They had to be earned, asserted, and demonstrated through bold and undeniable action. As Part 3 concludes, Earth stands on the edge of a new chapter. The people, the leaders, and the scientists are ready to take the next step. They have prepared, observed, and learned. Their first attempt at diplomacy has failed because the Council chose to ignore them, but humanity has not been defeated. Instead, a new plan is forming, one that combines courage, innovation, and strategy. The galaxy will soon understand that Earth cannot be silenced or overlooked, and that humans are ready to claim their place among the stars. After weeks of being ignored, Earth decided that it could no longer wait. The Galactic Council had made its choice clear. Humans would not be acknowledged, at least not voluntarily. But humanity had learned something important from the silence. They had proven they could survive, adapt, and innovate. They had proven they could observe, analyze, and plan. Now, they would prove that they could act. Leaders, scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens began working together with a focus and determination that had rarely been seen before. Every city, every research lab, and every school seemed to feel the same energy. Earth was ready to show the galaxy that it could not be ignored. The first step was to prepare for visibility. Humans were going to send messages and demonstrations that could not be overlooked, ones that would clearly show their technological capability, their intelligence, and their readiness for interstellar cooperation. Scientists worked on advanced communication arrays, capable of sending detailed signals across vast distances. Engineers developed probes designed not just to explore, but to display Earth's accomplishments, its art, its science, its culture. Every effort was intended to demonstrate humanity's creativity and ingenuity, qualities that no one could question. At the same time, there was a focus on defense. While humanity did not want conflict, everyone understood that showing capability meant being prepared. Spaceships were equipped with systems that could protect them against potential threats, and simulations were run to anticipate possible responses from other civilizations. The goal was clear. Humanity wanted recognition, not war, but it would not be passive in the face of hostility. The more the world prepared, the more confident people felt. For the first time, Earth seemed truly united in a common mission. Diplomats worked tirelessly to refine the planet's message. They knew that words alone had failed in the past, but this time, every communication was carefully crafted. It emphasized humanity's achievements and readiness for collaboration. It offered solutions to problems faced by multiple civilizations, showing that humans were not just capable of participating in galactic affairs, but could contribute positively. The message carried a subtle warning as well. Continued dismissal could have consequences, not out of aggression, but because humans were capable of taking action. When pushed to the edge, public involvement was equally important. Citizens of Earth were encouraged to contribute, whether through science, art, or public messaging campaigns. Schools held competitions for creative projects to showcase human ingenuity. Communities built models, simulations, and demonstrations of Earth's achievements. The atmosphere across the planet was one of unity and pride. People who had once felt small in the face of the vast galaxy now felt empowered. They were not waiting passively for recognition. They were creating opportunities for the galaxy to notice them. Observations of alien activity continued. Humanity had learned from earlier missions that some civilizations were still monitoring Earth closely, watching for signs of weakness or indecision. The reports were studied carefully. Scientists and diplomats used the data to understand not just the technology of other civilizations, but also their behavior and intentions. Every move, every signal, was analyzed to determine how best to assert Earth's presence. It became clear that the galaxy underestimated humans, and this gave Earth an advantage. As preparations progressed, the sense of urgency grew. Time was not on humanity's side. The longer Earth waited, the more entrenched other civilizations could become in their dismissive attitudes. Leaders realized that bold action was necessary. They began planning a coordinated display of capability, a combination of advanced communications, technological demonstrations, and clear statements of intent. Humanity was not just asking for recognition. It was demanding that its existence and contributions be acknowledged. Behind the scenes, scientists developed new technologies that could serve multiple purposes. Communication arrays were enhanced to send signals that could carry complex information and cultural artifacts across vast distances. Space probes were upgraded with holographic and interactive systems to showcase Earth's achievements. Engineers worked on systems that could deploy these technologies quickly and safely. Every development reflected a single goal. Humanity would not be ignored. At the same time, diplomats refined their strategy for engagement. They studied the past decisions of the Galactic Council and identified the civilizations that had opposed Earth's inclusion. The aim was not to provoke conflict, but to present an argument so strong, so visible, that ignoring it would be impossible. Each message, each probe, each display of capability was designed to communicate the same idea. Humanity was ready, willing, and capable of joining the galaxy as a respected participant. The people of Earth responded with remarkable unity. Citizens worked tirelessly on local projects, schools held public exhibitions, and artists contributed to a growing archive of human culture. Engineers and scientists collaborated with students to create models of advanced technology and space exploration missions. The energy was infectious. Communities that had once been divided by minor disputes now found themselves united by a common goal. Humanity was becoming not just a species waiting for recognition, but a civilization actively asserting itself. By the time the preparations were complete, the world was transformed. Earth was no longer passive. The planet had coordinated efforts in technology, communication, culture, and strategy on a scale never seen before. Every individual, whether scientist, student, artist, or engineer, felt a part of this mission. The message was clear. Humanity would no longer be ignored, overlooked, or dismissed. The galaxy would see Earth not as a small, irrelevant world, but as a force to be acknowledged, respected, and considered in interstellar affairs. As Part 4 concluded, the stage was set for the next move. Humanity had prepared itself for visibility, for communication, and for potential confrontation if necessary. Every system, message, and display was ready. The planet was united, determined, and confident in its abilities. For the first time, Earth was not just waiting for the galaxy's attention, it was demanding it. The next step would not be subtle, but it would be unmistakable. Humanity was ready to make its presence known, and nothing would allow it to be overlooked again. The moment had finally come. After months of preparation, Earth was ready to send its message to the galaxy, a declaration unlike anything that had ever been attempted before. This was not just a letter or a formal request. It was a comprehensive statement of humanity's achievements, its intentions, and its readiness to contribute to the interstellar community. The message combined science, culture, and diplomacy, designed to be impossible to ignore. It included holographic representations of human cities, illustrations of technological advances, recordings of music and art, and even interactive programs that could be explored by any civilization with the capability to receive it. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, sending final calibrations to the communication arrays. Satellites were aligned, probes prepared, and signal boosters activated to ensure the declaration would reach every known civilization. There was a sense of tension mixed with excitement. For years, humans had been waiting, ignored, and underestimated. Now, for the first time, they were taking control of the narrative. Every human involved felt the weight of the moment. This was more than diplomacy. It was a statement of identity, of existence, and of resilience. The message was broadcast across the galaxy in waves designed to reach even the most distant observers. It began with a simple introduction. Earth was aware of the silence, and humans had waited patiently. But patience had limits, and now it was time to assert themselves. The declaration outlined humanity's technological progress, its cultural achievements, and its readiness to cooperate with other civilizations. It included examples of medical advancements, environmental restoration, space exploration, and innovations that could benefit multiple worlds. The message was factual, persuasive, and respectful, yet firm. Humanity also included a subtle warning. They made it clear that continued dismissal could lead to unintended consequences, not because humans sought conflict, but because ignoring an intelligent, capable civilization could destabilize the delicate balance of interstellar relations. The warning was measured and diplomatic, emphasizing that Earth's actions would always aim for peace, collaboration, and mutual benefit. Yet it communicated one undeniable truth. Humanity would not be silenced. As the message traveled across the galaxy, Earth waited anxiously. In observation centers, scientists monitored transmissions for responses, tracking which civilizations had received the signal and how they reacted. Social media, news outlets, and public forums were filled with speculation and anticipation. Citizens gathered in parks, squares, and community centers, watching screens that displayed data from distant reaches of space. Every eye was on the stars, every mind imagining the reactions of alien civilizations now finally receiving Earth's declaration. Responses began slowly at first. Some civilizations reacted with curiosity, sending messages back to explore the content of the declaration. Others responded with surprise or even alarm, clearly taken aback by the boldness and clarity of humanity's statement. Reports came in of alien scientists, diplomats, and leaders analyzing the data, discussing among themselves the implications of a planet that had suddenly declared itself fully capable and ready to participate in galactic affairs. The Council, which had previously ignored humanity, could no longer do so. The declaration had forced every observer to take notice. The impact was immediate on Earth. Citizens felt a mix of pride and relief. For the first time, humans were being seen as equals, as a civilization that had the right to speak, contribute, and participate. Schools celebrated with lessons about courage and unity. Artists, musicians, and writers were inspired to create works reflecting humanity's assertiveness and determination. Communities across the planet shared a sense of accomplishment that went beyond borders, languages, and cultures. Humanity had acted together, and the galaxy had listened. Even as positive responses arrived, there were signs of tension. Some civilizations that had opposed Earth's inclusion reacted defensively, questioning the intentions behind the declaration. They sent observation fleets and communicated with other members of the Council, clearly alarmed by the sudden visibility of a planet they had hoped to keep marginalized. Intelligence reports suggested that these civilizations began reconsidering their strategies, realizing that humans were capable of action and innovation that could not be ignored. The Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from multiple civilizations debated how to respond to the unprecedented declaration. Some argued that Earth should be included immediately, acknowledging the ingenuity and determination of its people. Others argued for caution, concerned that accepting humanity too quickly could upset existing power structures or give humans too much influence. Through these debates, it became clear that the silent dismissal of humanity was no longer possible. The declaration had shifted the balance of perception. Earth had become a presence the galaxy had to reckon with. Humanity watched the Council's deliberations, indirectly through observation arrays and communications networks. Citizens followed the developments with fascination, pride, and cautious optimism. They had acted boldly, prepared thoroughly, and demonstrated their capabilities. For the first time, it seemed likely that their place in the galaxy would be recognized. But even as hope grew, humans remained aware that the outcome was not guaranteed. The galaxy was complex, and some challenges would remain. What mattered most was that Earth had taken the first step to assert itself, and no one could erase that action. By the end of this phase, it was clear that humanity's declaration had succeeded in achieving its primary goal: recognition. Humans were no longer passive observers waiting to be noticed. They had demonstrated their intelligence, creativity, and readiness to participate in interstellar affairs. Alien civilizations, once dismissive, now treated humanity as a serious and capable presence. Even those who had previously opposed them began to reconsider their assumptions. Humanity had proven that it could act decisively, strategically, and with vision, and in doing so, it had earned a place in the galaxy's conversation. The story at this point was not just about technology or diplomacy. It was about identity. Humanity had transformed itself from a planet waiting in the shadows to a civilization asserting its worth and capability. People across Earth felt a sense of unity, pride, and responsibility. They understood that the galaxy was watching, that their actions had consequences, and that their continued participation would require vigilance, wisdom, and collaboration. But they also knew that they had taken a defining step, one that would be remembered in the history of both Earth and the galaxy. The declaration became a turning point. It was a reminder that silence and exclusion could not contain the drive, creativity, and determination of a capable species. Humanity had acted boldly, and the galaxy had responded. The planet's people felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that they had not only announced their existence, but also claimed their right to be part of something larger than themselves. The next chapter of humanity's journey among the stars was beginning, and for the first time, it was filled with possibility, recognition, and hope. After the Galactic Declaration, the world waited with a mix of excitement, hope, and nervous anticipation. Humans had sent their message boldly, showing their achievements, culture, and readiness to contribute to the galaxy. Now, it was the Council's turn to respond. For years, humanity had been ignored, overlooked, and underestimated, but the Declaration had changed everything. No one could deny that Earth existed, that humans had the ability to think, create, and act boldly. The first signs of response were subtle. Alien signals, once distant and observational, began to communicate directly with Earth. Diplomatic messages arrived, expressing curiosity, surprise, and in some cases, caution. Scientists and engineers monitored these transmissions carefully, analyzing the tone, content, and intentions. Every message told a story. The galaxy had noticed humanity, and now it had to reckon with the planet that refused to remain silent. As the council convened, it became clear that humanity's place in interstellar affairs could no longer be ignored. Delegates from multiple civilizations debated Earth's role, its readiness, and the implications of its sudden visibility. Some representatives were impressed, acknowledging humans' ingenuity and determination. Others were cautious, concerned about how this assertive species might disrupt existing balances of power. Heated discussions filled the council chambers, revealing that the planet's bold declaration had forced serious reconsideration of centuries-old assumptions. Meanwhile, on Earth, citizens followed every development closely. News outlets broadcast updates in real time, while online platforms allowed people to share ideas, hopes, and fears. There was a collective sense of pride. Humans had not only acted with courage, but they had also demonstrated their capability to think strategically, to unite across borders, and to assert themselves in the face of dismissal. Schools held lessons on diplomacy and strategy, showing students that the actions of a single generation could change the course of history. Communities celebrated the idea that Earth's voice was finally being heard. Some alien civilizations began reaching out directly, offering tentative alliances, knowledge exchanges, and opportunities for collaboration. The reactions were varied: curiosity, admiration, and cautious optimism. Humanity had not expected instant friendship, but the fact that these civilizations now saw Earth as a potential partner was a victory in itself. Scientists, engineers, and artists across the planet worked tirelessly to respond, sharing information, culture, and technology in a way that reinforced Earth's commitment to peaceful cooperation. Yet not all reactions were positive. Some civilizations that had previously sought to exclude Earth grew defensive. They observed carefully, trying to anticipate human decisions and actions. Intelligence reports suggested that these civilizations were reassessing their strategies, realizing that underestimating humans had been a mistake. The tension was noticeable, but it also reinforced one truth: humanity was no longer passive. The planet had taken control of its narrative and refused to be marginalized. The Council's final decision was historic. Humanity was officially recognized as a member of the interstellar community. This acknowledgement was more than a formality. It represented acceptance, respect, and the validation of decades of human effort. Diplomats from Earth attended the Council, sharing ideas, plans, and initiatives for cooperation. Humans contributed to discussions with insight, creativity, and honesty, proving that they were not only ready to participate, but capable of making meaningful contributions. On Earth, the response was overwhelming. Citizens celebrated, not only for recognition, but for the validation of their collective effort. Every individual scientist, teacher, artist, engineer, student felt the significance of this moment. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not through begging or pleading, but through determination, intelligence, and unity. People understood that their actions had not only earned respect, but had also set a precedent. A planet with courage, vision, and resilience could shape its own destiny. Even in the vastness of the galaxy, the acknowledgement also brought responsibility. Humans now had to navigate interstellar politics, diplomacy, and collaboration carefully. The galaxy was complex, with competing interests, alliances, and tensions. But humanity had already demonstrated the capacity to learn quickly, adapt to new challenges, and act with both courage and wisdom. The planet was ready to take on this new role, aware that its presence would influence galactic affairs for generations to come. Beyond politics and diplomacy, the recognition inspired a deeper sense of identity. Humans saw themselves not just as citizens of Earth, but as members of a wider community of intelligent life. The stars, once distant and mysterious, now felt like a shared space where humans could contribute, collaborate, and grow. The sense of unity and purpose strengthened communities, encouraged scientific innovation, and inspired art, culture, and storytelling in ways that transcended borders and generations, even as challenges remained. The overall mood was one of optimism and determination. Humanity had turned exclusion into opportunity. The galaxy had tried to ignore them, but humans had refused to be silenced. Through careful planning, ingenuity, and courage, Earth had forced recognition and respect. The lesson was clear. When a civilization believes in its worth, acts collectively, and refuses to be overlooked, it can change the course of history. As this chapter closed, humanity stood at the beginning of a new era. The Declaration had opened doors that had once seemed closed. Earth had gained recognition, respect, and the ability to shape its future among the stars. Citizens knew that this was only the start of a journey filled with both opportunities and challenges, but they were ready. The planet had discovered its strength, unity, and determination. Humanity had proven that it belonged in the galaxy, and nothing could take that away. In the end, it was not just a story of recognition. It was a story of resilience, courage, and the power of collective action. Humanity had faced dismissal, exclusion, and doubt, but through intelligence, strategy, and unity, it had rewritten its place in the universe. The stars were no longer distant observers. They were partners, allies, and witnesses to a civilization that refused to be ignored. And as humans looked up at the night sky, they knew that their journey was just beginning, filled with infinite possibilities and the promise of a future where Earth's voice would always be heard.